For centuries, we've been sold a single story about where our power lies. I've watched our generation achieve what our ancestors dreamed of. We've built fortunes. We've launched global enterprises. We've gained cultural recognition on the world stage. Yet, a fundamental truth remains unaddressed. The very structures that govern our progress, that decide our collective fate, are still managed by interests that thrive on our fragmentation. This is the uncomfortable reality I must share with you today. Our financial strength, while vital, is not the master key to our liberation. It can purchase security, yes, but it cannot purchase true self-determination. It can fund a company, but it cannot fund a sovereign future. It can provide for a household, but it cannot safeguard an entire people. We were taught that prosperity within the existing framework would be our ticket to freedom. But that framework's original blueprint was never meant to set us free. It was architected to direct our steps, to curate our ambitions, to place a ceiling on our ascent. You witnessed this dynamic playing out from Lagos to London, from Kingston to Atlanta. One family, divided by lines on a map, operating inside the same confining economic design. This understanding is why we must look past mere financial accumulation. We need a new approach, built on political cohesion, communal self-reliance, and shared purpose as the bedrock of our true independence. True power isn't counted in currency, but in collective will. A system not built by us will never truly work for us. When people discuss economic empowerment, they often stop at the idea of circulating wealth internally. They picture thriving local businesses, job creation, and family stability. And these are noble, necessary goals. But I need to voice a truth that makes many uncomfortable. Capital without genuine autonomy is not strength. Resources without unified direction do not equal security. Money flowing through a system engineered to manage you simply becomes energy for a machine you do not own. I have analyzed how international finance engages with our communities, across the African continent and throughout the global diaspora. I've observed African American economic gains become enclosed within a domestic structure that denies equitable political clout. I've seen Caribbean economies remain tethered to institutions that offer assistance while ensnaring them in perpetual debt cycles. I have witnessed African systems where raw materials are exported, while external influence is imported. The result is always the same. We produce immense value, but the ultimate control and benefit are captured by others. This is the inherent limitation of our current path. Not due to a lack of ingenuity or effort on our part, but because the economic game we are playing was designed with a different winner in mind. They permit you to own a store, but not to shape the laws that govern it. They allow you to create a brand, but not to build the political machinery that protects it. You can accumulate assets, but never enough to alter the foundational rules that dictate your long-term destiny. This isn't a coincidence. It is by design. Look back through our shared history, and the pattern is unmistakable. Every significant moment where Black communities amassed economic momentum was met with coordinated political suppression and outside intervention. In the United States, prosperous Black towns were systematically dismantled. In the Caribbean, financial leverage replaced overt colonial governance. Across Africa, visionary leaders who pursued true self-sufficiency were destabilized and removed. The threat wasn't their wealth alone, it was the unity it represented. So let this be clear. If you build your fortune inside a structure you do not command, that fortune is inherently insecure. It can be regulated away, seized, devalued, or simply assimilated into the very system that constrains you. And when you depend on external validation for your success, you are surrendering your destiny to entities that have no stake in your ultimate freedom. This is the core reason I urge you to think bigger than financial metrics alone. This isn't about abandoning economic power, but about situating it within a grander vision. A vision that demands political awareness. A vision that requires solidarity between the African continent and its global descendants. A vision that refuses to separate financial success from our collective political might. Because wealth pursued only for individual comfort can be easily compromised. But when that wealth is intertwined with a politically united people, it becomes an unstoppable force for change. If you grasp this principle, then you understand the mission we are launching. When the separation between Africa and its diaspora is discussed, people often cite geography, different cultures, or historical trauma. But I will tell you the core reason. Our division was a deliberate construction. It was assembled piece by piece, through policy and propaganda, until one powerful collective was broken into manageable, isolated segments. As long as we remain disconnected, every part of the black world remains predictable and easily influenced in the eyes of those who gain from our separation. Observe the African continent. Dozens of nations, each often compelled to negotiate with larger powers individually, rather than as a unified bloc with a single, powerful voice. Each country is frequently advised which debts to incur, which policies to implement, which partnerships to avoid. Even now, when unity is attempted, external forces work to undermine it. They do not fear our individual nations, they fear what a politically consolidated Africa could become. Now, look towards the Caribbean. Islands overflowing with potential, yet caught in a web of geopolitical maneuvering. Whenever a nation attempts to chart an independent course, immense pressure is applied to steer it back. The potential for a unified regional body exists, yet financial reliance and diplomatic leverage prevent it from becoming the political entity it deserves to be. Then, observe the African American community, a people defined by resilience, yet often contained within a political landscape that offers symbolic representation while resisting systemic transformation. You have the right to vote, but the system itself often remains unchanged. You can build wealth, but the fundamental institutions that govern that wealth's impact are often beyond your reach. Your economic advancement is tolerated, so long as it doesn't translate into a cohesive, border-crossing political influence. And this is the part that is rarely admitted openly. The gulf between Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora is not a natural cultural divide. It is a strategic one. The moment the black world begins to function as a single political entity, the global balance of power will be transformed. Our collective numbers would redefine international voting bodies. Our combined resources would reshape worldwide markets. Our unified voice would challenge every foreign policy that depends on our continued division. This is why our historical and cultural links are constantly downplayed. This is why African contributions are minimized in global education. This is why Caribbean nations are steered to look across oceans instead of towards the continent. This is why African Americans are often made to feel like strangers to their ancestral homeland. The less we identify as one global family, the simpler it is to manage our trajectory. But understand this: the intensity of their effort to divide us is a direct measure of their fear of our unity. They know our latent potential better than we sometimes know it ourselves. And that is precisely why this movement is emerging now, to rebuild the connections. The world works so hard to sever. Our separation is their strategy. Our unity is their fear. If you are prepared, I will move to the next phase, where we lay out the blueprint for this new front. When I talk about a movement that transcends economics, I am not inviting you to a social group or a philanthropic endeavor. I am announcing a strategic offensive against the apparatus that keeps us divided. A front where Africa, the Caribbean, and the global diaspora merge their strengths into one political force. Where our voice is no longer an echo in their corridors of power, but a quake that shakes their very foundations. Picture this: a worldwide black political initiative that refuses to let decisions about our future be made without us. A movement where African nations coordinate their political strategies, where the diaspora fully rejects the myth of separation, and where the Caribbean shifts from a zone of tourism to a hub of political leverage. Together, we become a gravitational force in global affairs, not just passengers on a journey planned by others. We will organize not just capital, but voters. We will launch not just enterprises, but policies. We will champion not just identity, but tangible influence. Because the true barrier to our ascent is not a shortage of wealth. It is the reality that our wealth moves through channels we did not design. It is the fact that every individual breakthrough can be met with a shifting of the rules. But when we advance together, when we connect continents, economies, and voices, the existing system cannot adjust quickly enough to contain us. Look at the global map of our people. Africa possesses immense untapped potential but lacks a consolidated political front. The Caribbean is a cultural powerhouse but is often constrained by external political forces. The diaspora has immense talent and numbers but its political power is fragmented. This is our point of convergence. We must build a coalition. African states aligning their political futures. Caribbean regions synchronizing with African strategy. Diaspora communities aligning their votes, their advocacy, their very presence. We will coordinate policy, form trade alliances, and claim shared seats at the most important global tables. We will compel powers to engage with us not as markets, but as a formidable bloc. This is why I am calling you to this cause. Because economics alone will not secure our liberation. Influence will. Because writing checks is useful. Raising your voice is important. But organizing power is transformative. Because the most valuable asset of our future isn't just our financial capital. It is our political capital, our collective bloc, our shared agenda. Stand with me, and we will construct a front that no external force can overlook. A front that no inherited system can circumvent. A front that we own and control. If you're ready, we will proceed to expose the hidden mechanisms used to influence us and show how our unity renders them obsolete. You cannot fully grasp our situation without understanding the silent war being waged against our collective spirit. Not a conflict of soldiers and bombs, but a subtle war fought with economic incentives, media portrayals, diplomatic pressure, and political manipulation. A war where external actors seek to influence who leads in Africa, who gains prominence in the Caribbean, who speaks for the diaspora, and who is marginalized when they speak of solidarity. This conflict is not new. It has simply evolved, becoming more sophisticated and less visible. Look at Africa. Whenever a nation strives for true self-reliance, pressure swiftly arrives. Sanctions, whispered threats, media campaigns, economic destabilization. Leaders who resist external control are labeled as unstable or radical. Those who comply are celebrated as cooperative and reliable. This is how foreign influence shapes our choices from a distance. It is how they maintain our policies within acceptable boundaries and our alliances within manageable limits. Now, observe the Caribbean. These islands hold significant strategic value. The instant a government dares to challenge external authority, diplomatic tensions rise. Trade deals are put at risk, support becomes contingent on compliance. You are instructed on which paths are deemed acceptable and which are labeled disruptive. This isn't partnership. This is control disguised as cooperation. And this same silent war reaches the diaspora. You are told the primary obstacles exist within your own neighborhoods. You are fed stories that encourage internal conflict, distracting from the global architecture that profits from your disunity. Your political strength is immense, yet it is often scattered. Each time you begin to form coalitions that genuinely threaten the status quo, media narratives shift to break your solidarity. Understand this completely. This interference is not haphazard. It is meticulously planned to maintain the disconnection of the black world. Because if Africa achieves political cohesion, if the Caribbean attains stability on its own terms, and if the diaspora unites around a common purpose, foreign powers lose the advantage they have held for generations. They dread a global black political bloc. They fear a network that links Atlanta to Angola to Antigua. They are terrified of a movement that can bypass their established institutions, counter their narratives, and reveal their methods of control. They fear a people who cannot be manipulated by debt, propaganda, or intimidation. This is the fundamental reason we built a movement that looks beyond economics. Because financial independence means very little if political interference can still dictate your fate. Our liberation truly begins the moment we recognize the silent war and choose to fight it with unity, strategic intelligence, and unwavering courage. If you have stayed with me this far, then you already sense it. The turning point, the awakening, the realization that our destiny cannot be bargained for inside structures intended to weaken us. Now I speak to you directly, because a movement isn't built from monologues. It is built from individuals who decide that a line has been crossed. People who refuse to let the next generation inherit the same constraints, cleverly repackaged as opportunity. This is the moment you choose. Will you remain an observer, or will you become an active agent of change? The world has made one thing abundantly clear. No external savior is coming for Africa. No one is riding to the rescue of the Caribbean. No one is going to liberate the diaspora. And history shows that no people have ever been saved who were unwilling to stand as one. That is the ultimate purpose of this movement, to awaken the understanding that our power is not lost. It is simply waiting to be assembled and activated. I am calling you into a movement where your voice carries the same weight as your wallet. A movement where the youth of Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora communicate, collaborate, and construct networks together. A movement where our economic decisions fuel our political objectives, rather than feeding structures that have no interest in our freedom. A movement where your knowledge, your skills, your activism, your vote, and your solidarity become essential tools in a worldwide struggle for dignity and self-determination. This is not a distant fantasy. It is already taking shape. Across Africa, a new generation is rejecting outdated models of dependency. Throughout the Caribbean, citizens are questioning directions imposed from abroad. Across America and Europe, the diaspora is demanding genuine respect and transformative change, not just symbolic representation. These embers are glowing everywhere. Our task is to unite them into a fire so intense that no power can put it out. So here is my call to you. Start conversations in your own circles. Educate your family. Mentor your peers. Support leaders who fight for true sovereignty. Use your social platforms to highlight external interference. Reconnect with the continent. Reconnect with the Caribbean. Reconnect with each other. Every single action you take adds another thread to the fabric of this movement. You don't need vast riches to participate. You don't need to be a seasoned politician to join. You only need to internalize one powerful truth. They are more afraid of our unity than of anything else we possess. And that is the very reason we must choose it, relentlessly and courageously. Step beyond the narrow focus on finance. Step into the future we are destined to build together. Your part in this story starts now. And before you go, if this message resonates with you, please show your support by liking this video and following the channel Winds of Thought for more content that challenges the narrative.